thought I would start my talk this morning with a Father's Day story to honor the times that fathers have had to do things that were really, really difficult. Certainly things that I couldn't do myself. And I remember that I have 3 sons, and we love to go camping, especially by water, because we had a motorboat. We had all kinds of water toys, and my favorite were water skis. Well, one weekend, my then husband decided that it was time to teach the 3 boys, they were 6, 8, and 10, how to fish. So they all 3 went down to the lake with their bamboo poles, and not that much later, my youngest was coming up from the banks of the river, and he was angry, and he was stomping, and he walked up to me with this angry face and red. He's a little blonde kid, and he was just red, beet red, and he goes, "Did you know what he was going to do to those fish?" He cut off their heads. The poor little kid was still, trying to find Nemo. And so he wasn't quite ready for that. So I know I opted out because at that time he used worms for bait. And there was no way I was going to mess around with those wiggly little things. Anyway, thanks, Dad, for doing the hard stuff. I was taught as a child that the rainbow symbolized God's sacred, solemn promise to humanity that he would never again send a flood to purge the earth of all the nasty humans, and so he could start all over again with just Noah's family. And most of us have heard that story from Genesis. However, the rainbow is a symbol of a promise or covenant, and that is not unique to the Judeo-Christian religion. People for centuries have been using their imagination to explain the rainbow and the meaning of this phenomenon. In Greco-Roman mythology, the rainbow was considered to be a path between earth and heaven made by Isis, the goddess of sea and sky. In Chinese mythology, the rainbow was a slit in the sky, sealed by the goddess Nua. Her name sounds very similar to Noah. Perhaps another one of religion's many shared stories, who knows? But it is said that she used these colors to seal the sky after it was shattered by the rage of the god Gong. In Aboriginal mythology, the rainbow snake is the deity governing water. In the Hindu philosophy, the 7 colors of the rainbow represent the 7 chakras, or energy centers in our bodies. And there was one particular culture in the Amazon where rainbows were associated with evil spirits that cause harm, such as miscarriages and skin problems. I'm not sure how those 2 calamities are related, but the Incas made sure that they closed their mouth at the sight of a rainbow in order to avoid any trouble. But most cultures believe that there are few things in creation as beautiful and wondrous as a rainbow. It is a meteorological, scientific phenomenon based on the principles of physics. And yet, they are optical illusions. They are not objects. They are caused by reflection, refraction, and dispersion of light in drops of water. I'll just give you a real brief review of Rainbows 101. When sunlight encounters a raindrop, part of the light is reflected and the rest enter the raindrop. The light at the surface of the raindrop is refracted or bent, and the various colors appear when the light then divides and disperses in the form of an arc. And the particular color is not a coincidence either. It is determined by light wave frequencies. Humans are sensitive to a certain number of wavelengths, so we see 7 colors. However, if we were a bird, we could see 9 colors. because the colors themselves are gradations of intensity, not separate bands. And I'm still not totally sure that I understand completely that whole process, even after reading about it, but I do get why the rainbow has become such a cherished symbol. And I think it is wonderful that it has become for us a metaphor for life. Because to understand the rainbow, we need to recognize the power of oneness. There is one light, one life, one race, one soul, one mind, one. And yet, what gives this one light its beauty, its radiance, is diversity. The different colors. And the colors can only appear when the light itself is divided and then dispersed. Even the requirement to see a rainbow is a metaphor. We must make sure that we have positioned ourselves so that the sun is always at our back. You can only see a rainbow if the sun is behind you. We must stand in the light to see and experience beauty. The rainbow glorifies the oneness in its diversity. That's rainbow power. Diversity is our strength. It's not just a clever meme. It is the truth. Can I get an amen?
Amen.
At our core, we Unity folks are people who want the spirit of love and inclusiveness to reign, R-E-I-G-N, but it is a play on words, reign, R-A-I-N, in our lives. We can trace our roots back to Myrtle and Charles Fillmore, who weren't interested in starting a church, but to be an addition to whatever church you were already involved with. It offered the experience of healing prayers to anyone and everyone. Prayer was central to their meeting together, above and beyond anyone's church affiliations. Prayer was the connection to the oneness of the God within that bound them together. And not insisting that everyone believe the same exact thing makes me think that they too believed in the power of the rainbow, the power of diversity. It is our heritage to engage our hearts and minds and bodies on this adventure called unity, called a life, together in unity. Our covenant to one another in this beloved community is a promise to do what love asks of us and to live together in the integrity of that faithful love. It's this covenant, this promise, that keeps us from isolation, from a selfish individualism that would keep us from becoming a part of the greater community. We join together to practice love, to dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and wisdom together, to find better ways to live in this world together. This is our sacred spiritual work. My personal promise, a covenant, is to dwell in peace and love unconditionally. And that, I must say, is being severely tested. Not so much here with you, but as I try and live those values, honoring my commitment out in the world. And I have tried to focus on the opportunities for love and courage that abound in spite of all the divisiveness that is happening all around us. The courage of nonviolent demonstrators, of first responders, courage of the victims of oppression and suppression, courage in the children forced to grow up in violent times where there are even schools and churches and their families who can't guarantee their safety, the courage of activists who tirelessly work for reform. And that focus does provide a respite, but still, with each new day, there are new opportunities for me to sense a movement toward division and causes me to feel intense negative feelings. Yes, there have been problems, But I have always believed that scientists and experts were working hard to fix them. A new medical advance would be discovered, a new law would be made, a new educational technique would propel the onward improvement of our minds. I once thought that economists would fix poverty, political science would fix social injustice, chemists and biologists would figure out ways to save the environment. The power of reason would prevail, and we would adopt sane and compassionate policies because humanity was destined to create a perfect world that worked for everyone through education, science, values, reason, and technology. In the words of author Charles Eisenstein, our human systems of money, politics, energy, medicine, education, and more are no longer delivering the benefits they once seemed to, or that we believed would. The institutions that have borne us through the centuries, he writes, have lost their vitality, and only with increasing self-delusion can we pretend they are sustainable. Nothing created in humanity will last. The first verse of Psalms 127, unless God builds the house, those who build labor in vain. There are no policies, no institutions, no technology that can transform our world. But the good news is that only a transformed heart can. A life aligned with the inner divine self. I love being with those whom I know have the courage to turn to spirituality rather than to materialism, who make the same covenants I do and remain resolute in our faith, who know that adversity is not the only path to courage, who believe that we can do something positive in the wake of disaster. We can build when others destroy, we can show a way to heal when others harm, and we can love when others hate. But it's a spiritual work, a spiritual transformation. It comes from a transformed heart. And how do we maintain the courage to constantly do that? To keep our covenants and convince ourselves that and others to remain courageous and kind and not give up. Marianne Radmacher wrote that courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's the little voice at the end of the day that says, I will try again tomorrow. She says, courage has color. Courage is the purple press of dusk with miles to go before you reach home. It is the color of spring pushing against the lingering winter. It is the indigo sea over which dreams are whispered. It is the weaving of all these colors in a tapestry or rainbow that reminds us that we are braver than we know and stronger than we ever imagined. Maya Angelou said that courage is the most important of all virtues, because without courage, you can be kind for a while, generous for a while, or merciful and even loving for a while, but it is only courage that you can, with courage, that you can be persistently and insistently kind, generous, and fair. I first needed the courage to not accept my negative feelings carte blanche, but as the Course of Love says, I needed to have the courage to accept that I have those feelings, both negative and positive. I won't embrace negative feelings, but I do accept that I have them without judging. And then taking a step further, know that feelings do not happen to mislead or torment me, but to support me. It's all good. These feelings are calling me to express my true divine self by choosing thoughtful and loving responses. I am solely responsible for the intense feelings of dislike I have towards a particular person, and I have the freedom to see them as a call and response. Those human feelings are a call to respond from my Christ self. If we are all one, as I believe we are, then I need to see this person, each person, as me, and be kind, generous, merciful, and loving. See him, them, as I want to be seen. Believe that he and his followers are doing what they believe is best given their particular ego-based belief system, which the Course of Love defines as insanity. And that's not judgment, that's discernment. And boy, do I need help with that. And I found it. Charles Eisenstein, whom I quoted earlier, has written a book entitled The More Beautiful World Our Hearts Know Is Possible. And he writes about the need for a completely new story, because the old insane story of separation doesn't work. He calls the new story the story of interbeing. And the fundamental concept of the new story is that we are inseparable from the universe, and our being partakes in the being of everyone and everything else. Therefore, what we do to another, we do to ourselves, and every act is significant and has an effect on the entire cosmos. Every act is significant. Acts of courage can easily be missed if we believe they are just for the battlefield. They are, in fact, performed every day in quiet corners. Seneca wrote that sometimes even to live is an act of courage. It's one thing to risk dying for a worthy cause, but it's another to choose to live for a worthy cause. Some people I know and loved have not made that choice. They have quit. My sister quit, as I shared with you the last time I spoke. And I get that. I do. I understand it. It takes courage to know the universe has your back when you are suffering or losing, to believe in love in the face of hatred, to believe in life when physical death is inevitable for all of us, to believe in the light of day when you are in your dark night of the soul, to believe in inherent goodness in the face of deliberate acts of anti-love, to be able to do that, those manifestations, to be able to do that, to love and believe and hope, takes great courage. Some people live with constant pain, but they choose to persevere when there is no earthly reason to do so. They don't allow it to paralyze them. I have loved ones with muscular sclerosis, cancer, cystic fibrosis, crippling arthritis, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, organ deterioration, and mental illness, and I know it takes nothing less than courage for them to get up each morning and live, not just endure. Courage is to keep on trying, even though we fail as often as we succeed. We hold on to hope even when others give up, because we know we cannot continue to exist without hope and faith. We have the courage to support, not punish, to face and contain the rage, not feed it, to find strength and goodness in the hearts of those around us. We can be gentle with ourselves and others, because gentleness does not mean weakness. It is an act of courage. It's the little steps. It's the decision that there is something worth living for, maintaining a firm dedication to justice with resoluteness to refuse anything but peace, to fiercely resolve to live our faith through purposeful action, and to persevere, refusing to remain silent, and to honor love even when it doesn't make sense. I want to close with the words of Ambrose Redmoon, who was first a beatnik and then a hippie poet. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the judgment that something else is more important than fear. The courage to do anything outside of our comfort zone comes with a price, and that price is integrity. He writes, when fear and doubt loom large with ferocious voices that stop us cold like a mountain lion in our path, we can scant hear the voice of courage. We are too preoccupied with the danger at hand, the what-ifs of the lion's roar. We focus on our fight or flight instinct, ignoring the voice of reason. At this precipice, at this juncture, we must sit on a stump and quiet our minds, quiet the lion's roar, calm our breath, and listen. Like sunlight through the trees, it comes, soft, radiant, definite, until we hear only that, allowing us once again to step forward and take on the lion, now reduced to a mere kitty cat in our path. Listen for the small voice of courage, reason, and integrity when fear looms large. Let the voice beam down like a small ray of sun through the rain. See only the rainbow and ignore the rest. Fear will shrivel up from lack of attention because you have found something else more important to focus on. We must never fear the storm. In fact, we can dance in the rain, knowing that the rainbow is not far behind. Blessed be.